Hello, this is Jessica Phillips, 268618, A2 Fine Art Sketchbook Flick Through. So I chose to do my theme on pollution, specifically plastic pollution and ocean pollution. So I did a mind map of all of my ideas, such as plastic and litter. I tossed with protests and air pollution, but didn't really carry these themes and ideas through to the rest of my work. This is my experimenting and playing with ideas, a bit of a vast drawing page. I used lots of different techniques and ideas to produce this book. So I use things like sticky notes and text, which is something that I continue to use throughout my work. I really enjoyed using text to display a message in this project. I used quill and ink drawing. I used pencil, fine liners. I used actual bubble wrap and watercolours and pencils and lots of different things. Here was a bit more of an experimenting page as well. I used plastic bag to press watercolour paints onto the page, and I used lino ink to press real litter onto the page. I did this in the house, so I didn't have proper pressing utensils, so it came out a bit weak, but when I got back into college I explored the idea further and inked up some pieces of real litter, such as masks and nets, cotton buds, can holders, can rings, and these turned out much bolder, and I really like them. It's turning the litter and what some people would see as rubbish into art, and I think that is an idea and a concept that I run with throughout my work. Here's some more. These came out really well. I'm really happy with these two. They're really bold. They remind me of x-rays, like looking through something to see something else. My Pinterest page, this is where I collected ideas from other artists on the platform of Pinterest and put them into my book to kind of revert back and grasp ideas from. This is an idea that I play with a lot, where a fish has something coming out of its mouth. Here's some research onto the plastic pollutions in the oceans and in our streets. And then this is a trip that I did to Arbor Beach, which is a local beach to me, and I went on a bit of a litter picking hunt and went around the beach and tried to find lots of different types of interesting litter. Here you can see a picture of me litter picking. This was oil pollution spilt on the sea from the local steelworks, and I took that idea and used bubbles to create this, so bubbles in acrylic paint, and pressed it onto the paper, and I feel it gives a really similar look. This is me and my partner, me and my boyfriend. He came with me to litter pick. Here's the original picture, and I drew us using a quill and ink, and I really quite like it. I thought it was relevant to put in there. Bit of corrugated plastic that I transformed into corrugated paper, so folded paper, to give the same effect. Here is my first artist. Her name is Kirsty Whitlock, and she sews and embroiders onto things that are commonly littered, such as train tickets, plastic bags, newspapers, and she turns the litter and the unwanted good into art, and I really admired that. So I went on and explored that idea myself using plastic bags and sewing onto them. I didn't have the same kind of sewing machine as her, so I wasn't able to embroider the letters, but I used acrylic paint and I feel it gives a similar effect. So like I said, the idea of turning rubbish and using the rubbish to make art was really inspiring to me, so I continue to use that throughout my work. She also used a lot of text, so I went on to explore text. I printed out a sentence on the computer and then I photocopied it, but when I was photocopying it I was moving the piece of paper as I was going along, and it gave these really lovely distorted, quite graphic text, and I really like how they turned out, especially this green. I changed the colour of the lettering, it's really nice. More experimentation. I used an old newspaper that I found with a big picture of a steelworks, and I thought that was perfect for the project and for what I wanted to use it for. I washed and put crisp packets in the oven so that they shrunk and formed these beautiful little tiny little crisp packets. I went on to explore different forms of litter that I could sew into, such as period pads. Here it says, "I'm well protected is the earth." Again, like Kirsty does, she uses a lot of text in her work to portray a message, and I wanted to carry on that. Here I found an artist who knitted big pieces of fabric, and to me they looked like fishing nets, so I wanted to make one myself, and I knitted this using a very thin embroidery thread and quite large needles to get that gapey look. But yeah, I really like how that turned out. Here we're doing collage, lots of different types of collage. So here's a cigarette butt, McDonald's cups, plastic bags, water bottles. The water bottle worked really well. All the different colours colliding and little strips of greys forming the squished plastic worked really well. Here we have a bit of a research page on fishing, the fishing industry and nets. As we can see by this picture, lots of animals get tangled up in fishing nets, and I wanted to kind of work with that. So I made my own nets out of sellotape, so it's like a plasticky feel, wool. Here's paper net. I continue to explore this idea throughout my work. I really liked how it came out. It looks very bold and it's quite fluid for a piece of paper. So here we have quick, bold drawings done with just black ink, which I think was a really fun task. As you can see here, this is where my original ideas for smoked salmon, draw the short straw, and let your net down, which I continue to explore throughout my book. Yeah, I really like how they came out. They're very graphic. I kind of, as I was moving along while drawing the straws and even the plastic bags, it became a bit of second nature, and how things fold and bend, and they turned out really fun to draw. It was drawing without the expectation of it being good, and they're one of my favourite pages in the book, so I'm really happy with them. Here is my second artist. Her name is Alyssa Burke. She does plastic bag printing. So she paints with acrylic onto plastic bag and then pushes it onto paper to form cool graphic shapes, lots of different colours, and I like the use of plastic, using plastic to make the art. That was what attracted me, so I had to go at it. Used plastic bag and acrylic paint and pushed it all onto the page. Did lots of like straws and can holders, can rings. Here's one that I did of nets, and here's one I did of masks. I feel like I kind of lost her style as I went along. This one I feel like is very reminiscent of her style, but as I continued to work along, I feel like I lost that style a bit, but it was the process and it was fun. So I did these cigarette butts using the same technique as I just described. and I think they came out quite bold, a bit graphic. It could make a nice pattern, but I feel they lack something. They reminded me of the use of oil pastels, where it's a bit blotchy, a bit messy, a bit quick and fast. So I went on to use oil pastels on this page, and I believe they turned out okay. I do feel they'd make a fun pattern, but I might have lost the shape of the cigarette butt. They need to be longer and taller, but I still quite like them. Here are some digital pieces I did. I reworked the smoking fish. I named it smoked salmon. Kind of the idea of we are throwing so many cigarette butts in the ocean that the fish might as well smoke themselves. And I did drew with a short straw, where again the fish has lots of straws coming out of his mouth, because we are kind of giving the fish a bit of a hard time, the bad life on Earth. So yeah, that's that. Including environment, I wanted to use my artwork in the environment instead of taking the environment and using it in my artwork. So I drew these people litter picking, and I went out and I set them out next to objects that I found littered on the floor, and I liked how the people were smaller than some of the objects, because it looked like the object was bigger than itself. Here you can see again I drew another person and placed her in all sorts of places and areas. Here we have a drawing of a jellyfish I did, but the jellyfish is covered with a bit of paper that I've cut into to make it look like plastic bags, because jellyfish are often, plastic bags are often mistaken as jellyfish by turtles. And so I wanted to make a piece on that, and I really like how it turned out. It's very simple, but I do think it's quite fun. This is my third artist research. Her name is Chloe Juno, and she photographs litter on the street. So these are artist research that I did of certain photographs that she has taken, and I did it on digital, so on Procreate. Here again, we did some tights and then a sticker of the Queen. I was lucky enough to have an interview with Chloe through Instagram, and she answered all of my questions in great detail. She was very lovely and very sweet, and she gave me a lot of information on her work and why she does what she does. So I wanted to have a go at photographing work myself. So I went out, and this was a very small walk around my block, and I was able to take many pictures. To make my pieces more interesting, I cut out some of the objects, and I stuck them on mount board, so they're raised, which I think is quite nice. It gives a bit more of a dimensional feel to the piece, makes it look a bit more bold and kind of real. It's like you could touch it. Here I did a repeat pattern of a fork I found. I just thought it was quite interesting, and I wanted to take it and draw it digitally. The same with this glove. This is a glove that I found. I took a picture of it and drew with it digitally, forming quite a bold piece of like a hand reaching out and grabbing, and yeah, I thought it was quite nice. Outlined some of the drawings, some of the pictures that I took. Here is my final piece plan. This is, I used the square idea from Chloe Juno's photographs. She photographs her findings in the square format, and I wanted to incorporate that, so I used that here. Made a big square, and then I cut that square into 4, and then I cut all the little quarters into more squares, just to kind of give variation and depth. figured out what I wanted in each of the squares. And then here then I was planning some of the context and the formal elements and how it would be displayed, the materials I would use. And that's it.